What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Anirtainment. As always, I'm Michael.
I'm Josh.
Today, we're going to talk about Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, Hanna-Barbera is one of those studios that really cemented the Saturday morning cartoons for us and kind of molded it in what it is today. So let's start things off with where they started off.
Yeah, they started off way back in the year like 1930, back in like the 1930s. After Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera, that's their first names. It's two guys. Back in like about 1940, they created this show called Tom and Jerry. Actually, those weren't the original names of the characters. I don't remember what they were. They began like J's.
Me either.
But in like the second episode, they got their names, Tom and Jerry. That's all that matters. So after they did that and became a huge hit, they decided to. They left MGM Studios, which they were working with, and decided to make their own studio. And they brought over a lot of the people that they had worked with throughout their careers up to that point.
Right, and a lot of those people were retired animators or lead writers who would work for places like Disney and Warner Bros.
Yep.
So they had a pretty good team of writers, animators, all sorts of the in-between jobs as well. I believe Joe Barbera was an animator, wasn't he? He was an in-betweener or whatever it was called?
Yeah, Barbera, he, with, I think, Disney and then MGM, did that. An in-betweener is just because back then they did all hand drawings, everything by hand. Every frame was drawn by hand. So you had your lead animator animate frames like 1, 3, 5, and 9. Then you have, or like 1, 3, and 5. And then you have your next guy, your co-animator or animated assistant would animate scenes like 2 and 7, and then he's the in-betweener, has to fill in the rest.
Right.
Of sequences from like 1 to 9 and whatnot. So he'd do like 4, 6, and 8.
Right.
Whatever.
And Joe Barbera was kind of the money of the operation, if we will.
Yeah, he was rich.
Yeah.
Money.
And he was really good with the money. He wasn't the best drawer, but they were kind of the polar opposites of each other.
Yeah. Hanna was the business guy. Barbera was the drawing.
Right. He was the creative side, which is kind of where Tom and Jerry came from, wasn't it? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, they seem to be based off each other. Tom being that more serious, conniving, business-minded man, if you will.
Right.
Which is how Hanna was. And Barbera, who was stated to have a sense of humor, was like Jerry. He was funny, he was witty, and all that fun stuff.
Right.
Obviously, if they got together, Hanna-Barbera got along well. They've been friends forever. They were friends for forever.
MGM together and also. But moving on from that, and obviously with the success of Tom and Jerry, the rise of Hanna-Barbera really happened around the 1940s and continued through up until the 90s, I guess, if you want to say.
Mm-hmm. So for about 50 to 60 years, they were going really strong.
Yeah. We had all sorts of shows. I mean, their most notable shows. Things like the Flintstones, Tom and Jerry's, Smurfs.
Jetsons, and Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, all these shows. I mean, I remember Scooby-Doo. I don't remember. I mean, obviously, I don't remember seeing them when they came out because I wasn't alive.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing Scooby-Doo on the Saturday morning cartoons and the Flintstones every once in a while. Tom and Jerry, Boomerang happened, and all those shows are on there. So
I remember whenever I would be sick from school, like when I was in elementary school, watching cartoons at home. I'd watch a bunch of these. I'd see Scooby-Doo a lot. Tom and Jerry, I'd watch a little bit. Flintstones and Jetsons, I've seen a few episodes of.
Right.
And plus a lot of the other shows, more recent ones, obviously.
Right, and with the success of those shows, I mean, there were obviously some flops, if you want to say. Like, there were some spin-offs of Scooby-Doo's and some spin-offs of...
Yeah, the late 70s and the 80s was a time where there was just a lot of, not many original ideas, a lot of just spin-offs or taking older characters and putting them into new things, and they weren't fantastic.
Right, and this was also after they were sold. Hanna-Barbera Studios was sold to Taft Broadcasting. Now, Taft Broadcasting was based out of, I believe, Ohio somewhere. And it was just kind of one of those things where they had to make the decision to sell the studio out, and Taft gained the rights to all their shows, and I think everything that they had worked on or something like that. So after the 60s, it was 1965 when that happened, so after Taft took over, things kind of went downhill, it seemed, as far as content creation.
But things kind of got back on track in the late 90s when Ted Turner bought Hanna-Barbera and a few other animation studios because he wanted to create a 24-hour Cartoon Network, if you will, which gave rise to Cartoon Network. That was the channel. It was the station he created.
Yeah, and my entire childhood, as far as
mine as well.
Far as I'm concerned,
and probably a lot of our listeners.
Mm-hmm. So 90s cartoons, I'm a huge fan. Now, people are going to say, oh, you were born in 97. Like, you're not a 90s baby. I'm like, oh, come on. I watched all these cartoons. I know a lot of the stuff that happened in the 90s. You might as well incorporate us both into the 90s. You were born in 97 as well, right?
Yes, I'm older than you.
Oh, 96. 96?
I'm a month older than you.
Oh, it's 97. Okay. So, but...
Really?
I'm sorry. So, in the 90s... Fred Seibert was the one who took control of, if you want to say, Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
And he started the What a Cartoon, which really kind of brought Hanna-Barbera back into the cartoon, like, Saturday morning scene of having really, really good cartoons.
These are the cartoons that I grew up watching a lot. I'm sure you did as well, and many of our other listeners. These are the ones. These are the, the What a Cartoon gave rise to Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Conan and Kids Next Door, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and Family. Even Family Guy started here too before moving over to I think it's on Fox now.
Yeah.
And that prime time and adult grown up animation slot with The Simpsons.
Right.
And American Dad and all that other stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, these still in the 90s, they were still going through that, they were still doing the hand-drawn animation. So up until around that point, everything was hand-drawn.
Yep.
I mean, it's still kind of hand-drawn, but it's all done on a digital platform of some sort, where they have big screens or they have drawing pads hooked up to computers where they can see.
And it's no longer drawing frame by frame. The computer can just kind of fill in.
Yeah, a computer can help generate. So it's it's a quicker process to do it digitally, but still with Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, and Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, I believe even, they were all very. You could tell in the art style that it was hand drawn. Johnny Bravo, I mean, every time that he turns, he's a blur, which is, I mean, it kind of plays into how his character is in the show, but you can tell that it's hand drawn with that.
And we listed a few above, but in some of the Hanna-Barbera shows that are most notable were, again, Tom and Jerry, the first one. Everybody should know them. It's been around forever. And the Flintstones, everybody knows them as well. They've made live-action movies. They've been around forever. Same with the Jetsons. Scooby-Doo's been around forever and has multiple iterations. The Smurfs.
Smurfs is... that's still pretty big even.
Yeah, with those CGI live-action movies. The Snorks was a thing that was around.
I don't remember the Snorks as much.
I've watched a couple of episodes of them. They were the Smurfs, but underwater.
Oh. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Was that more of a spin-off of the Smurfs? Or was it just its own thing?
It was its completely own thing. It was just the analogy I was using to compare them.
Oh, okay.
Because they're not actually the Smurfs. They're their own little creatures. And it was a cute show. Some other notable ones were Justice Friends. So that's like, Superman, Batman. The early... It was like one of the very first superhero cartoons that was out. Yep.
And then what was... Hanna-Barbera also did one with... what was the ghost? I can't think of his name.
Ghost.
Yeah, the... Oh, man.
Space Ghost?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, which prompted a bunch of spin-off series like Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which had... Oh man, I can't remember the names. My dad would be killing me because my dad grew up watching these cartoons. Mm-hmm. So
my dad and uncles grew up watching these as well. I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember. Holy crap!
Oh man.
Let's look it up.
Something in.
Hey, fact check.
And Zorak. Zorak and Brack and Zorak. That's it. Brack and Zorak.
There it is.
Yeah. So that was an interesting show. I remember seeing.
And of course, I just remembered another really big one. I can't believe I forgot about this. Yogi Bear.
Oh my gosh, yeah. For goodness sakes, yes.
He did that one too. That one was huge as well.
I mean, I can even remember we stayed at a park that was like Yogi Bear in like some campground, and it was just named after them.
They even did a Harlem Globetrotters animated show.
Of all things, but I'm sure it was
And of course they had a bunch of others, which we looked, when doing research for this episode, we looked through other shows, I didn't know a lot of them. There's a lot I actually didn't know. I've only watched a small portion of
Right,
it, but they're the ones I have watched are really good.
Yeah, there were quite a few, and I mean they're big blockbuster names, if you will. Like you mentioned earlier, Tom and Jerry, the Flintstones, Scooby Doo. They're still around, and they're still making. I mean, most of them are spin-offs now. Like they're not making new episodes of the original series. Most of them are spin-offs, but they're still around today, and they're household names at this point.
Yeah, and on Boomerang and anywhere online, YouTube, other video sharing websites, Netflix, Hulu, and even the shady websites, you can find all these old ones. You can watch them to your heart's content.
Yeah, and would recommend that you watch some of them, especially, I mean, one of my personal favorites, well, the first three that we mentioned, Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, and Johnny Bravo, they were the big three in What a Cartoon that really set off, like, really cemented Cartoon Network's existence and really put us into the, not really push us into the digital age, but kind of help move the cartoons along and really
help modernize them.
Yeah, right. That they're going to be around for a while.
And I also just remembered another show. I never watched this show, but I know a lot of people did, and that was Johnny Quest.
I do remember Johnny Quest. I didn't watch it personally either. So, Codename Kid Next Door, though, that one was more of our digital age as well, but that was so good.
I loved that one. It was probably one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows.
Even though they kind of closed their doors in 1960, well, not in 1965, but they had such a huge impact on these modern cartoons, as we've noted with like Tom, Jerry, Flintstone, Scooby-Doo. Mm-hmm. Even the Saturday morning cartoons. Everybody that you talk to who's been alive in the last roughly 100 years, or been at least, around our age or younger, has known about Saturday morning cartoons. It's like a tradition that's been just spanning since the 40s. And Hanna-Barbera helped to bring that along.
If you're a kid, Saturday mornings, you wake up early and you go turn the TV on, you watch cartoons for a few hours. All your favorites, whatever they happen to be at that time. Mm-hmm. And that was started, and Hanna-Barbera started that. Yep.
Now, of course, there were other companies doing Saturday morning cartoons, but theirs were more successful than any.
Yeah, theirs was the most popular, and I think Hanna-Barbera were the first ones to do it, and other companies just kind of like, hey, this is working. Let's do it too.
Right. And I mean, well, at the time, too, of Hanna-Barbera, we had, like, the Looney Tunes around that was Warner Brothers.
We had Disney Animation as well.
Right. They were gearing more towards, like, the young adult.
Yeah, your Mickey Mouse cartoons and whatnot. But that was really about it.
Yeah. So Hanna-Barbera really came out with Disney was all about, like, all right, we're going to focus on the really young child, like, we want to help them learn or whatever. Hanna-Barbera was really the first one that kind of made, like...
There were some old Disney cartoons that were not really.
But around this time, around like the 30s, 40s, 50s, they were kind of geared towards.
I think all cartoons at this point were all geared towards kids. Hanna-Barbera was the first one to really have like not adult humor, but like shows that adults could watch and enjoy as well as kids. The show I wouldn't call them family shows. Because there were cartoons that kids would watch, but there's some things that happen in there that kids won't understand that adults would, and they'd laugh at it.
Right.
I can't remember what those are called, but there's a word for it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, too. I can't think of it either. Innuendos, that's it. Yeah. And I mean, even like in Tom and Jerry, I'm sure there were innuendos like crazy in that. But it's slapstick humor, like, and around in the 40s, you're still looking at a one television set family. Mm-hmm. So everyone's going to come up and watch your Saturday morning cartoons. So... the kids are going to sit and watch Tom and Jerry and love the fact that they're, all the slapstick comedy that's happening and everything. And the adults are going to pick up on those innuendos that happen that the kids are just going to not even notice. Mm-hmm. So it's enjoyable for the entire family at that time. And that was something that I think Hanna-Barbera kind of started.
They did start it. They did start it.
Yeah. Then we had shows later geared almost more towards young adults or adults with like the Animaniacs. Johnny Bravo had more innuendos and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of those early Cartoon Network shows were definitely for a slightly older audience than before. So like I would say like preteen, 10 to 12 ish.
Right. But it's something that the parents would continue to watch while it's still on the television while their kids are watching it. Mm-hmm.
And there are things that were jokes and stuff that we don't know that the adults could laugh at that still go over the kids' heads.
Right. So. Moving forward from this, what's your favorite Hanna-Barbera 90s cartoon? And then after this, we'll go to like just our favorite 90s cartoon.
Favorite Hanna-Barbera 90s cartoon? Yeah. So like that What a Cartoon era thing?
Yeah. What's your favorite What a Cartoon?
Codename Kids Next Door, by far.
Oh, okay.
I love that show. Oh, I loved it as a kid. I kind of, and now talking about it, I kind of want to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, that could be something
So
that
good.
that I put on the
Love that
list.
one. I watch that one a lot. I would always try and make sure if there's a new episode out, I'm like, oh, I gotta watch it. I make sure I'm, not doing anything and watch that episode and whatnot.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be part of K&D too when I was a kid because it's
yeah.
so cool.
Well, it was basically a kid's version of James Bond almost, where I don't want to, not like killing the people and everything,
Yeah.
but like they were essentially spies, and they were
Secret organization of kids fighting adult tyranny.
and my favorite.
Just adults, really.
My favorite part of that show was like the teenagers, like how like when you go from being a kid, you go to the teenage, and then the adults were just kind of like we're here, you know.
Kids were fighting teens, but like if you were really, really, really good operative in K&D, you could still be like a teenage and adult operative. Sort of. I don't know.
You were still part of the you were still part of the Kid Next Door organization, but you were older now, and
Yeah, you were in like a
you got
different
to
part,
operate
and
inside.
they even had like kids on like the moon and like their moon base and their space base and other things.
Yeah.
The show eventually went outer space and whatnot. It was a really good show.
There were so many cool scenes and action fights, and I do remember I don't know if it was the season finale and like the very last episode, but I remember, man, that was one of those like really heartfelt moments. Like they were all saying their goodbyes or whatever, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe
It's like,
wow,
no, the show is over. I don't want it to be over. Keep going.
Yeah.
Go forever.
and they
They can't, unfortunately, but
right.
you know.
So,
What's your favorite?
oh man,
Talk about my favorite. It seemed you like K&D a lot. It gets
I
into a lot.
do, and I don't
feel
know
like
if I'm
you're
gonna
gonna
name
have-
it that though.
Yeah, I had a feeling you're gonna say something different.
I-
Be boring if we both had the same.
Right. I was looking over the top three there, which was Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, and Johnny Bravo.
All three
And-
were really good. And I enjoyed
right.
watching as well. but
Right.
can't
Powerpuff Girls it's a great. There's so many fantastic and well-known super villains in the show.
Him, Mojo Jojo, the male versions of the three. I think the Powerpuff Boys or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they're called, but
They had like
the male versions of those. There was that one little red-haired girl who wanted to be a Powerpuff Girl. She had like a tiara and whatnot.
right. Queen Bee, wasn't it, or something like that?
No, I don't think so.
I
I don't
can't remember. But
and
there
then
was
you
so
had the
many
mayor,
notable-
and then the mayor's like assistant whose face we never saw.
Yeah.
Her face was always off camera.
Ever.
Maybe
And-
we saw it eventually near the end, but I don't remember. It's been a while since I finished shows.
Right. And Dexter's Lab was just one of those that was so. The whole like brother sister between Dexter and Dee Dee was always a funny.
Well,
Always make for funny
They were
moments.
brother and sister.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole brother sister thing, they actually were.
Well, yeah. But
Siblings,
like
so that
it led
dynamic
to
was cool.
it led to really good. As someone who had siblings growing up, I could relate to like, man, that is frustrating when your sister does this. Like, she's not blowing up my newest technology, but like, it is still frustrating. Like,
See, I don't have any siblings, so I couldn't relate to it like that. But I still thought it was funny and whatnot.
the jokes were very funny. And then Johnny Bravo, I think I'm gonna have to name my favorite of those ones. I'm gonna have to name.
To be honest, that's
Hanna-Barbera.
probably the one I watched the least of those three that you've named. Of a lot of these, that's probably one of the ones I watched the least. Not because I didn't like it. It's just either the other ones were on when I was watching TV, or I don't know. It's usually that. I was like, I never really
Right.
got a chance to catch it when it was on.
I loved it. I thought it was so funny. I mean, like, there wasn't really a whole lot of plot. It was just Johnny Bravo going around essentially hitting on women and failing miserably to do so in every way possible. And it is so funny. There's so many great lines from it. Like, one of my favorites is like, he's talking to this woman who's in the army. He's like, how's it going, military mama? And she just kind of like looks up at him and he goes, what do you think of these guns? And he like flexes real hard, and then he's like, ho, ho, and like does the thing, and like just looks at her, and she's just kind of staring up into space like, what are you doing? And it's
Wasn't
very
that an
great.
episode where Johnny Bravo got turned into a woman?
I think so. And it was still so funny because, you know, his character, like, he's got the really buff top and like really tiny legs and everything, and it's still retained his almost his same character style. Like, it was really big top.
How
and really
does
small
Johnny
bottom.
Bravo walk? Because he's got this big, huge upper body, but little tiny skinny legs.
Yeah, I know. It's a good question.
How?
And I mean, one of the other things that always interests me too, and we can get into a theory here real quick, but is that Johnny Bravo is actually a young kid, and that's why the real young girl keeps talking to him and like tries to hit, I don't want to say hit on him, but like that she likes him, is that Johnny Bravo is actually a small child. Like he's actually younger, and that's why he still lives with his mom. And the girl like in elementary school talks to him all the time. But the portrayal of Johnny Bravo that we see is how he sees himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's one of those shows that's actually from we're not just watching events that are happening, it's from different character's perspective.
It'd be from
we
Johnny
can get
Bravo's
into stuff
perspective.
like that later.
Yeah, and it's not like a confirmed theory or anything like that, but it's always been one of my favorites.
Most theories usually aren't confirmed or whatever. Just there, people come up with.
It's really interesting to think about when you watch a couple of the episodes. Like, how could anyone have that giant of an upper body and those small of legs?
Mm-hmm.
And that could be something that you think like, oh, someone in elementary school might think of something like that or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Johnny Bravo for my favorite.
All right. So now, what's your favorite like old timey Hanna-Barbera? So like pre-90s.
Oh man,
like actual Hanna-Barbera, not Cartoon Network Hanna-Barbera, but old Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
Because I've got mine.
Okay, well then you go first, because I got to take a little time.
Scooby-Doo.
That was quick. That was
told you I
really
had
quick.
mine. See, I didn't watch a whole lot of Tom and Jerry. I wasn't a huge fan. That's just me. It wasn't, not that it was a bad show. It wasn't. It's just that just wasn't my cup of tea. Just straight up slapstick. And just, the entire show was 100% slapstick. There might have been a plot in the show, but it was always just the two hitting each other and whatnot.
Right.
I don't know. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But I love Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
It's timeless. It's classic.
It's the
awesome.
first.
It's funny.
It's the first mystery show, really. I mean, there were detective shows and stuff online, but it was probably one of the first animated kids cartoons.
Detective shows.
Yeah, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember watching it a lot. I'd watch it with my parents a little bit. If I'm sick from school,
I would
watch
on.
it. I remember watching my pup Scooby-Doo, which is all of them, but younger.
They were much, much younger.
And I enjoyed that one a lot, even if it wasn't the best. And despite a lot of people not really liking Scrappy, I didn't think he was terrible.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't great in the live action movie that they had. I mean,
no.
That movie wasn't exactly great.
We don't speak of that.
We don't speak
that
of the
never
live action
happened.
movie.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, so they didn't make a live action movie.
Yeah, I love Scooby-Doo, all the characters. I think my favorite was probably Shaggy or Scooby.
They were the dynamic duo.
Yeah. They were the comic relief of the crew. And then you had Velma, who was the really smart one. And there was Fred and Daphne, who were.
They were the jocks, popular kids.
Yeah, and Fred was kind of like the leader of the group.
Mm-hmm. You're not gonna like my answer then, probably. See,
I have a guess what it is. Is it Tom and Jerry?
It is Tom and Jerry. You see, I mean, in the same way that you grew up and you remember watching Scooby-Doo and everything like that, I remember watching Tom and Jerry quite a bit. And anytime that it was on, I was like, I want to watch it. I mean, the slapstick, I was not necessarily all about the slapstick humor, but a lot of it was just funny. I thought that the relationship between Spike and Tom and Jerry, and then how like Jerry worked with Spike, and like just how the plans would come together and how ridiculous some of the stuff was just so amusing to me. Mm-hmm. I remember it was probably kind of a play on the Three Stooges a little bit, this scene, but I remember a scene where Tom's hitting Jerry with something, Spike's hitting Tom with something, and then Jerry's hitting Tom, but on the backswing hitting Spike at the same time. So there's all this stuff going on, and it's just for like a couple seconds they're just doing this back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and then for whatever reason, whatever stops them, and it was probably over something quite ridiculous like, oh, someone ate the turkey or something. And yeah, we covered their 90s cartoons. What about just your favorite cartoon? Like, let's go with just favorite 90s cartoon, other than it could be Hanna-Barbera too, I guess. You gonna stick with Codename?
So, I actually don't know if that even started in the 90s. Because if it did, I might. Well, there were so many 90s cartoons, like, holy crap.
There were quite a few. We got Doug, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain. Oh my gosh, I forgot that was the 90s.
Let's see. K&D first aired at a time, I don't know.
Darkwing Duck.
I've heard of that show. I know a bit about it, but I've actually never seen it, so I can't pick that one. I know like that opening, Darkwing Duck, that part, just that part.
Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, I watched that a bit. You see, K&D originally aired in 2002. Its first episode was in 2002,
so it was
I can't pick it. 90s cartoon. Animaniacs was good. I watched a bunch of episodes of that.
Animaniacs was so funny. There's so many innuendos in that one.
Yeah.
Now give me the bird. I can't. I would, but this is a children's show.
No, fingerprints. I don't think so.
holding Prince. The literal singer Prince.
Countries, the Countries of the World song.
Oh yeah,
that one was really good.
That was really impressive.
90s cartoons. Holy crap!
Rugrats. I got mine.
I wasn't prepared for this.
Got it. I've got mine.
Then go. If you have yours, you go.
Wait, never mind. Oh man. Oh no. Oh, there's so many. There's so many good ones. I mean,
had my hopes up for nothing.
I'm sorry. There was the one that I'm looking at right now is
Batman the Animated Series.
X-Men's there as well. Real Monsters.
I never really watched
Ed, Nettie, Chip and Dale, Cat Dog. Come on, there's so many good ones.
See, Real Monsters I have never seen.
Real Monsters I saw a couple episodes. It wasn't the best, but I think you know what? I'm gonna have to go with my favorite '90s cartoon.
Mine's Arthur, not really.
Arthur? Oh, Arthur, yeah, the children's show, yeah.
You know all the ones with all those fist memes?
Yeah.
Standing with the fist by his side,
And a meme was born.
Well, there's a lot of memes with Arthur, but
I think I'm gonna have to go with Rugrats.
Why?
Well, again, it was that whole family aspect of things where like the brother-sister duo, the friends and everything, that they were at such a young age, and there were just so many good moments from it. And probably one of the most, ironically enough, one of the most mainstream characters today, it was Tommy's, it was his toy dinosaur. Do you remember the name of that dinosaur?
Nope.
I can't remember it either.
I think I've got mine.
All right, shoot while I try and find out what the name of the dinosaur was in Rugrats.
My favorite would have to be the New Batman Adventures, which was the sequel to Batman the Animated Series.
Okay.
New Batman Adventures, that aired from 97 to 99. Unlike Batman Animated Series, which was in the early 90s. So it was before I was born. This one was right around the time I was born. So this was a bit newer. So when I was actually finally old enough to watch cartoons, remember the hell I'm watching.
Right.
This was what was going to be on. So this one had not just Batman, but there was also, you had Robin, you had Batgirl, you had Nightwing, the entire Bat family. You had all these other villains: Catwoman, Joker, obviously, Scarecrow, Bane, Penguin, Mr. Freeze, all of them.
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze. That was his name. His name was Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, but did he have a bunch of terrible ice puns in the show?
No.
Didn't he do that in the movie?
What movie?
That
movie never existed. I don't know what you're talking about. That movie doesn't exist. It never happened. It never happened. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about that movie, which never happened.
Oh my gosh.
And no, this Mr. Freeze was actually a really good Mr. Freeze. And it had, in my opinion, the best Batman and one of the best Jokers. Kevin Conroy voicing Batman, and Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, voicing the Joker.
It's pretty much an all-star cast.
Yeah, I loved that show a lot. That's really what really got me into liking superheroes. Really got Batman's one of my favorite heroes, and it's because of that show. It was just so good. The action was good. The stories were good. The writing was good. Everything. Obviously, it wasn't like comedy filled. Unlike some, it wasn't like slapstick or a comedy focus.
It was an
like
action.
A lot of
it was a comic book.
It was a comic book. It was awesome. Batman's a more serious hero, but all his sidekicks and what were more funny. Robin was, Batgirl was, the Joker. Obviously, the Joker's gonna be funny. He's the Joker.
Right. Yeah.
he's the clown prince of crime. The clown is in his name.
Yeah.
That name there.
And I found some more stuff too, and I found the dinosaur's name, and I can't believe I couldn't remember this. Reptar. Yeah,
Of course.
yeah. Even you knew that. Come on, and it's right there. And I mean, even when I talk to people outside of class and we're like, oh, what's your favorite cartoon? And they're like, oh, it's this, this, or this. And I go, do you remember Rugrats and on there? Oh, like they're like, yeah, oh yeah, with Reptar and everything. I'm like, yeah, exactly. And he's not even like one of the babies. He's just, he's one of the main characters. He's Tommy's toy dinosaur, and it's just how he sees them.
Yep.
And along with that, I had forgotten about the main lore of the show, which was that the babies can understand each other, and they can understand what the adults are saying, whether it's, whether they fully understand it or not, to the extent of what they're saying. Like, they don't understand the sarcasm, they don't understand when they say certain things or whatever, or what they mean, really.
But the adults can't understand the babies.
The adults can't understand the babies, but Angelica can understand both, and like fully understands both.
She's like, what, 4, just right in that age range.
Right.
There's a very sad theory about Rugrats.
Oh yeah, is it the one with the babies don't actually exist? It's just that they're all in Angelica's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one is pretty dark. Wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, the theory, it was really dark and sad. I don't know if that Chucky, I think Chucky was actually still around. The kid with the red hair.
Yeah, that's Chucky.
But like Tommy was never born, which is why his dad's crazy about making Tommy was actually like a miscarriage or something.
Yeah,
and that's why his dad is like crazy about making toys.
I don't know if it was part of the theory or if it was one on itself that the twins were actually also not there. It was just the fact that the mom was pregnant, and the mom was still pregnant with them, and since they weren't around yet, like they weren't born yet, or that just a baby wasn't born yet, that Angelica or whoever is the main part of the theory, just made 2 of them, one a boy, one a girl, and they were exactly the same age and were twins.
Yeah, it was like that. I don't remember. I think it was, they weren't born yet, and they decided to have it be a surprise. They didn't know what the genders were, and since Angelica didn't know what the gender of the baby was, she just decided to make these, these twins. They were getting one of each in her mind, because she didn't know. She's like, I need both.
Right.
There was another baby, weren't there? There was Tommy, there was Chucky, there was the twins. Wasn't there somebody else?
There was Tommy's younger brother.
Tommy had a younger brother?
Yes, I believe so. He wore the diaper everywhere. He couldn't communicate with them. He was like a newborn, essentially.
Yeah, okay.
So, with that, what all do you guys have to think about this? I mean, obviously we talked about a lot in some of these theories, but what's your favorite Hanna-Barbera cartoons? What are your favorite 90s cartoons? Do you think these theories are correct, or are we just insane? Which, I mean, we kind of are anyways for watching so many cartoons.
There's nothing wrong with that, though.
Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with that.
We look at that. We watch cartoons all the time. We turned out perfectly fine.
Yeah. I watched Tom and Jerry and haven't killed anyone yet.
Guess that's one way of looking at it.
But, so let us know, because I'm actually interested. I really want to know. I enjoy looking through all these theories, and I enjoy watching new cartoons that I haven't maybe even heard of, or maybe haven't seen in a while, and going back and rewatching them. Because like you said, even with the innuendos, we miss so much.
That we'll get now because we're older.
Yeah. But thank you guys for watching and keeping up with our podcast. I mean, I believe this will be our last episode of the season.
Probably.
And
short season.
Right. Thank you guys for keeping up with us. If you haven't watched our other podcasts, we would highly recommend it. But make sure that you go back and watch some of the shows we mentioned before if you don't want them spoiled for you.
Yeah, because the ones we've talked about before are more recent. Some have been going on now. These ones are a bit older. They've been around for years and years and years and years.
There's not a whole lot of, in some of them, there's not a whole lot of plot to drive it anyways.
Yeah, they're very episodic. Just things happen each episode.
Right.
Each episode is self-contained. There we go.
So, stick around with us. We're planning on doing a season 2. As soon as we have that announced, or we have some ideas for what we want to do, we will put that out there and get that ready for you guys.
Yep.
So thank you guys for watching. As always, I'm Josh.
I'm Michael. Thanks for listening.